The Siberian Husky refused to step away from the infant's crib. When Sarah glanced down at the interaction unfolding between her daughter and their dog, time seemed to stop. She had done everything possible to maintain distance between them, absolutely certain it was the safest approach. But Storm wasn't retreating. She was guarding something. One instant Sarah was extending her hand to separate her dog from the baby. The next she stood paralyzed, witnessing Storm's actions transform into something remarkably intelligent. What Sarah understood in those heartbeats was so profound. It revolutionized her entire perspective on maternal instinct forever. The preparation that never felt enough. Sarah Mitchell had dedicated months preparing for this encounter, yet every nerve in her body vibrated with apprehension. Introducing 7-month-old Maya to Storm, their 4-year-old Siberian Husky, felt like choreographing a high-stakes performance where a single misstep could destroy everything. Storm had been their original child, devoted, affectionate, but still a formidable animal with impulses Sarah couldn't entirely anticipate. Perhaps we should postpone this another few weeks, Sarah suggested to her husband, Marcus, that morning while rocking Maya against her chest. She's still so vulnerable. Marcus lowered his mug, tension evident in his posture. Sarah, we've discussed this repeatedly. We can't confine Storm to the garage indefinitely. This is her territory, too. I understand, but what? You believe she attacked her? His tone carried sharpness, honed by weeks of sleeping on a makeshift bed in Maya's room while Storm scratched at the basement door. Sarah's eyes stung from sleep deprivation. Shadows had etched themselves beneath her eyelids, and her hands quivered slightly as she adjusted Maya's clothing. I don't know what to believe. I simply know that animals can be erratic, and she's fragile. Marcus, completely defenseless. Storm had exhibited peculiar behavior ever since they'd returned home from the hospital with Maya. She'd patrol the corridor outside the nursery, her claws tapping against tile throughout the night. She'd press her muzzle to the door, making distress sounds. When Sarah or Marcus appeared, Storm would attempt to force her way past them, her focus locked on something invisible to human eyes. She's experiencing jealousy, Sarah's aunt had observed during a phone conversation. Canines become possessive when a new infant enters the household. Sarah had accepted this explanation. She'd maintained the separation, wrestled with guilt about it, but maintained it regardless. The fateful introduction. That afternoon, Sarah decided the moment had arrived. She couldn't delay indefinitely. She positioned Maya on the family room playmat, creating a barrier of cushioned pillows, and signaled Marcus to release the basement door. Storm burst in, her silver and charcoal fur gleaming with vitality. But the instant she detected Maya, she became motionless. Her ears shot upward, her powerful head angled to one side, and she released a single piercing bark. Maya's expression crumpled, her mouth stretched wide, and she erupted into wailing, that penetrating infant cry that pierced directly through Sarah's core. See, Sarah dove forward, gathering Maya into her arms. This was premature. She frightened her. Sarah, hold on. No, Marcus. Look at her. Her voice fractured as Maya's screams escalated, her miniature fists grasping at Sarah's blouse. We need additional time. But Storm didn't withdraw. She didn't cower or vocalize again. Instead, she advanced closer, her body language transforming into something Sarah had never witnessed before. The dog's ears folded against her skull, not in hostility, but in deference. Her tail dropped. She took measured, purposeful steps towards Sarah and the crying infant, her penetrating eyes focused not on Maya's face, but on her torso. Storm, no, back. Sarah's available hand thrust forward, palm extended. Storm disregarded her entirely. Marcus, restrain her collar. Marcus reached for Storm, but the dog maneuvered around him with unexpected grace. She was transfixed now, her respiration accelerated, her nostrils flaring. She thrust her snout toward Maya's body, investigating frantically at her garments. Storm, cease this. Sarah rotated her body defensively, protecting Maya, Her pulse thundered against her ribcage. This was precisely what she dreaded, the dog becoming excessively forceful, overly curious, dangerously unpredictable. Storm produced a sound Sarah had never heard her emit before, a sharp, urgent whimper that seemed to resonate with desperation. Then she executed something that made Sarah's blood freeze. The dog elevated onto her rear legs and positioned both front paws on Sarah's thighs, her complete weight pressing forward. Her snout pushed persistently against Maya's midsection, probing, nearly scratching at the material of her outfit. "Marcus, remove her from me." Sarah staggered backward, nearly toppling. Marcus seized Storm's collar, yanking forcefully. "Storm, down. What's possessed you?" But as Marcus hauled Storm away, the dog began resisting, genuinely fighting. She anchored her paws and refused mobility, her muscles tensing. She barked again, more forcefully this time, her eyes frantic with something resembling terror. "Marcus, she's becoming uncontrollable. We need to." Sarah halted mid-statement because Maya had stopped crying. Not the gradual calming of an infant being comforted, but an immediate, unsettling silence. The terrifying discovery. Sarah looked down. Her daughter's complexion had shifted from crimson to ashen. Her eyes were partially closed, fluttering. Her small chest. Sarah's stomach plummeted. Her chest was scarcely moving. "Marcus." The word emerged as a breath. "Marcus, something's critically wrong." She lifted Maya's outfit with trembling hands. What she observed made the room spin, a rash spreading across her torso like flames, elevated angry welts that appeared to multiply even as she stared. Her skin radiated heat, burning through Sarah's fingertips. Her breathing had become superficial, a faint wheezing sound emanating from her throat. Dear God, Marcus, what is it? Call emergency services now." Marcus's complexion drained to white. He released Storm's collar and grappled for his phone, nearly dropping it repeatedly before managing to activate the screen. Storm immediately charged back to Sarah, but this time, Sarah didn't repel her. The dog pressed her body against Sarah's legs, whimpering, her nose still directed at Maya. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter. Marcus's voice shattered. My daughter isn't breathing properly. She has this rash, it's everywhere. And Christ, she's turning blue. Sarah collapsed to her knees on the floor, cradling Maya. Her lips had developed a faint azure tint. Her eyes had rolled back marginally. Storm settled beside them, her head resting on her paws, but her body remained taut like a coiled spring. Is she experiencing an allergic response? The operator inquired. I don't know. We haven't introduced anything new. No unfamiliar foods. No. Remain calm, sir. Emergency medical services are en route. Is the infant conscious? Barely, Sarah gasped. Tears cascaded down her face, falling onto Maya's pale forehead. Please. Storm shifted nearer, her massive head pressing tenderly against Maya's side. She licked her tiny hand once, then gazed up at Sarah with eyes that seemed impossibly aware. The race to survive, the minutes preceding the ambulance's arrival, expanded into infinity. Sarah held Maya against her chest, sensing each shallow breath, tallying them, praying between each one. Marcus paced, his phone still pressed to his ear as the operator guided them through maintaining the baby's airway open. When the paramedics exploded through the entrance, they moved with rehearsed precision. One of them, a woman with steel gray hair secured tightly, took Maya from Sarah's embrace, while another prepared an oxygen mask so miniature it appeared toy-like. Anaphylactic shock, the first paramedic announced, examining the rash. Severe presentation. We need immediate hospital transport. But from what? Sarah's voice was shredded. She didn't consume anything. She didn't. Sometimes the trigger isn't immediately apparent, ma'am. Let's stabilize her first. They loaded Maya into the ambulance. Sarah climbed in alongside her while Marcus pursued in the vehicle. Throughout everything, Storm remained at the entrance, observing, her tail tucked between her legs, but her ears attentive. The devastating revelation. At the medical facility, physicians worked rapidly, an epinephrine injection intravenous fluids, monitoring equipment that beep and illuminated. Sarah and Marcus stood compressed against the wall, gripping hands so intensely their knuckles blanched, watching their daughter struggle for regular breathing. Dr. Rodriguez, the pediatric allergy specialist on duty, examined Maya comprehensively while firing rapid questions. Any new laundry products? Soaps? Have you modified her formula? No, Sarah stated. Everything's identical. We're extremely cautious about those things. What about environmental elements? Any renovation work in the residence? New flooring paint? Marcus's eyes expanded. The flooring? Oh, no. The flooring. Sarah turned toward him. What? The installation crew came 5 days ago, remember, for the nursery. We wanted it completed before bringing Maya home. Dr. Rodriguez's expression intensified. What type of flooring? I don't some kind of vinyl. The contractor said it was brand new, just delivered. He mentioned we should ventilate the room. But Marcus's face collapsed. We didn't. We were so thrilled to have the nursery finished. We just transferred her directly in. The doctor nodded deliberately. Volatile organic compounds, VOCs. New flooring can release chemicals, formaldehyde, toluene, others. Most adults manage it adequately, but a 7-month-old infant with a developing immune system sleeping in a confined enclosed space for extended periods daily. She shook her head. Her body was being contaminated gradually. Today's reaction was acute because the exposure reached a dangerous level. Sarah's legs nearly collapsed. Marcus caught her and they clung together. If you delayed another several hours, Dr. Rodriguez continued, her voice compassionate but resolute, her airways could have constricted completely. The reaction was severe enough that we're discussing a potentially lethal outcome. But how did we not recognize it? Sarah whispered. How did we overlook it? The symptoms can be subtle initially. Irritability, sleep disturbances, minor skin sensitivity. Parents frequently attribute it to colic or normal infant patterns. Dr. Rodriguez paused, studying them. What prompted you to bring her in when you did? Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. Our dog, Marcus said quietly. Our dog wouldn't abandon her. She kept attempting to reach her, kept investigating at her chest. We thought she was being aggressive, but she knew something was wrong, Sarah finished. Her voice broke. Storm knew. She was attempting to communicate with us, and we nearly excluded her permanently. Dr. Rodriguez's expression softened. Animals possess extraordinary sensory capabilities. Dogs can identify chemical alterations in the body through scent. Your dog was likely detecting the histamine response, the chemical changes in your daughter's skin and respiration. She was attempting to alert you. The words settled over Sarah like a revelation. Coming home to understanding. They kept Maya overnight for monitoring. By morning, the rash had diminished to subtle pink marks, and her breathing had stabilized. Dr. Rodriguez prescribed an epinephrine autoinjector, provided strict instructions about eliminating the flooring, and authorized them to return home. When they arrived in the driveway, Storm was waiting at the window. The moment Sarah opened the door, the dog approached slowly, cautiously, her eyes fixed on the infant carrier in Marcus's hands. Sarah knelt down. She positioned her hand on Storm's head, feeling the soft fur, the warmth of the animal's skull. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so profoundly sorry, girl. You were attempting to rescue her, and her voice broke completely. Storm pressed her forehead against Sarah's chest, and Sarah wrapped her arms around the dog's neck, weeping into her fur. Marcus set the carrier down and Storm immediately approached. But this time when she investigated Maya, her tail swayed slowly. She licked her hand once gently, then settled beside the carrier, a sentinel returning to her duty. That evening, after they'd removed the crib and established a temporary sleeping arrangement in their bedroom, Sarah stood in the doorway watching. Marcus organized blankets while Storm lay beside the bassinet, her head resting on her paws. The dog's eyes tracked every movement, every breath. She's not going to leave her side, is she? Marcus said softly. No, Sarah replied. And I'm not going to request that she does. She reflected on all those nights she'd kept Storm isolated, convinced she was safeguarding Maya, all those hours the dog had paced and cried while Sarah had interpreted it as possessiveness. She thought about how close they'd come to permanently removing Storm from their lives, convinced she was a danger. The lessening trust. Sometimes the boundary between peril and protection is guarded, not by what we observe but by what we sense. Instinct exists deeper than logic in the devotion of a creature who cannot vocalize but comprehends more than we envision. What we fear often obscures the protectors standing directly beside us, waiting for us to simply trust. The most profound love doesn't declare itself with language. It manifests persistent and steadfast, even when rejected. If this story moved you to your core and made you reconsider what you might be overlooking right before your eyes, share it with others. Comment your reflections about the remarkable connection between animals and children, because sometimes the guardian angel we need most is the one we've been turning away. If this story touched your heart, please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs a little hope today. See you in the next story.